Welcome to The Explainer! I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we are looking at something that is fundamentally changing how you, me, and billions of other people interact with the internet every single day. We're going to dive right into how this rapid shift to AI search is secretly rewiring our decision-making. I mean, you've probably noticed it yourself, right? Those direct AI answers just popping up right at the top of your search results. It feels like pure magic. But as we're going to see today, that magic actually comes with a pretty hidden cognitive cost.
But here's the thing. This shift isn't just happening in a vacuum. Behind the scenes, brands are literally terrified. They are fighting for pixels as traditional SEO transforms into this wild battle for visibility inside direct, AI-generated search boxes. Entire industries are scrambling to adapt to what they're now calling answer engine optimization. But hey, before we get too deep into the corporate panic, we really need to look at the human reality of this completely new landscape. We have to look closely at how we actually behave when we're just handed an answer instead of given a list of options.
And that brings us to this seriously fascinating paper presented at the CHI 2025 conference by some brilliant researchers over at Microsoft. They perfectly captured the current moment with this quote, noting how these massive language models are completely transforming our online tools. They can take these complex natural language queries and just spit out direct responses. Sounds incredibly convenient, right? But you gotta ask, what does it actually do to our brains when we don't have to synthesize any of that information ourselves? All right, let's look at Section 1, Traditional versus LLM Search, a completely new search landscape. So think about how we usually search. You type in a few keywords, you get a bunch of authoritative links. You have to look for reliable cues, like, okay, is this publisher trustworthy or is this just some random internet forum? It's slow. You're doing the synthesis. Now, flip over to LLM search. You just ask a complex question, exactly like you're chatting with a buddy, and boom, instant, direct response. But there's a huge catch right there at the bottom, hallucination risks. You get immediate answers, sure, but they might be totally made up out of thin air.
So the Microsoft researchers really wanted to figure out, does this AI actually make us smarter or, just a lot lazier? They set up this incredibly clever, totally relatable real-world experiment to test these two search methods head-to-head in a scenario that actually required some real thought and comparison.
Picture this. You're a business owner running a busy urban delivery service. Your task is to figure out which vehicle, let's say a Kia Sportage or a Toyota RAV4, gives you the absolute best cargo space compared to its total length. You need a ton of room for packages, obviously, but you also need a short car to parallel park in the city. It's the perfect test of synthesis because you have to find the cargo space, find the vehicle length, and literally do the math for both cars.
And the setup here is just brilliant. They split the participants right down the middle. Notice the difference. One group gets the old-school traditional search engine. They have to click links, read through pages, and hunt for numbers. The other group gets this custom AI bot where they can just ask the question directly. No clicking around, just a straight-up answer.
Moving right into Section 2, the speed advantage. And wow, is it a massive boost?
Okay, the efficiency results here were absolutely staggering. The folks using the AI search literally slashed their decision-making time exactly in half. They went from spending an average of 3.4 minutes per task digging through traditional links down to just 1.6 minutes with the AI. I mean, that is a massive, game-changing jump in productivity.
This AI efficiency boom was entirely real. People adapted almost instantly. Instead of running 3 different simple searches like Kia Sportage cargo space and then Kia Sportage length, they just threw these massive, highly complex prompts at the bot. They did way less work, finished twice as fast, and big surprise, they reported a much more satisfying user experience. They absolutely loved how incredibly easy it was. But let's get into Section 3, the hallucination trap, the hidden danger. Because here is the million-dollar question. What is the true cost of all that crazy speed when the AI inevitably messes up? The researchers knew these models aren't perfect, so they intentionally set a trap for the 5th and final task of the experiment. They picked a comparison where they knew for a fact the AI would confidently hallucinate and just completely lie to the user. Would anyone actually catch it? Enter the Toyota 4Runner trap. The AI has a well-known blind spot with this specific 2020 model. It confidently mixed up the seats up cubic footage with the seats down measurements. So it literally gave the user the exact opposite of the truth. But it wrapped that lie up in this highly authoritative, flawlessly mathematical-looking paragraph. And man, the results were a total disaster. Just look at these numbers. The traditional searchers who had to hunt down the info themselves, 93% of them got the trick question right.
They found the real data. But the AI users, their accuracy fell off a cliff, dropping all the way down to 47%. They were literally performing worse than a coin flip, completely and utterly derailed by the hallucination.
So, why did this happen? Well, the AI had sounded so incredibly helpful and authoritative on the first 4 tasks that the users' brains basically just went on vacation. A full 60% of the AI users typed in a single prompt and blindly accepted that incorrect answer. They didn't rephrase it, they definitely didn't double-check the math, they essentially just handed their critical thinking right over to the machine.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, Designing for Doubt, Fixing Human Tendency. The Microsoft researchers realized pretty quickly, okay, if we want people to actually think critically, we have to force the interface to explicitly show doubt. So they ran a second experiment. This time, they tapped into the AI's own internal token generation probabilities. Basically, when the AI spits out a word or a number it's a little sketchy on, the system itself flags it. They took that hidden uncertainty and put it right out in the open for the user to see.
Just look at this solution. It is brilliantly simple. They used a color coding system right in the text. Numbers the AI was sure about were highlighted in a nice, reassuring green. But the low-confidence guesses, the likely hallucinations, were painted in this glaring, impossible-to-ignore red. They quite literally painted the AI's internal doubt right onto the screen. And you know what? It worked absolutely wonders. The data here is super clear. Without any highlighting at all, accuracy on that trick question was a miserable 26%. Add the red low-confidence highlights, it more than doubled to 53%. Add both red and green together, and it shoots up to 58%. Just a simple splash of color fundamentally rewired how people processed what they were reading. Seeing those red numbers just snapped people right out of their autopilot. It acted as a crucial cognitive speed bump. They saw the red flags, they immediately stopped trusting that first confident response, and this is the coolest part. They started asking targeted follow-up questions. They literally used the AI to fact-check the AI until they successfully got to the real truth.
This whole explainer really drives home a profound point about where we are heading with artificial intelligence. As these search tools get faster and way more conversational, the way we design their interfaces has to evolve to protect us from our own over-reliance. It is simply not enough for a tool to just spit out an answer. A truly effective tool has to actively push us to question and verify things. It needs to help us stay engaged as critical thinkers, not just turn us into passive readers. Which leaves us with a pretty massive final thought today. AI is amazing. It can cut your work in half and make finding information an absolute breeze. But speed is not everything. At the end of the day, only your own healthy skepticism is going to keep you accurate. So, the very next time a chatbot hands you a perfectly formatted, super confident answer, are you going to blindly accept it, or are you actually going to double-check the math? Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer. Stay curious, and I'll catch you next time.